read you a little email, not an email, a little article here that I think is something I struggle with a little bit, which is this. The article is Big Sky Country Gets a Mikvah. Chabad emissaries in Montana, one of the least Jewish states in the U.S., built a ritual bath that will serve a vast area that includes Idaho, North Dakota, and South Dakota. In one of the least Jewish states in the country, a traditional Jewish group working to revive religious observance has built a mikvah, a ritual bath for spiritual purification. The bath opened several months ago in an extension built on the Bozeman home of Rabbi, I don't know what that means, type of home, I guess, of Rabbi Chaim Brook and his wife Chavi, who came here with the Hasidic movement Chabad Lubavitch. Chabad sends couples around the world, including to remote spots with tiny Jewish populations, to cook kosher dinners for travelers, teach rituals such as lighting Shabbat candles, and lead classes of Judaism. As a result of the Brooks' work, Montana now has what Chabad says is the only contemporary mikvah in a vast area that includes Idaho, North Dakota, and South Dakota. The Brooks expect to draw Jews from outside the states, including tourists outside the state. It's a milestone for Jewish life in Montana. Now, Bruck believes there are about 2,500 Jewish households in the state, plus hundreds of Jewish college students around. Now, here's the thing. On the one hand, being very pro-Chabad myself, I, feel that this is an amazing thing, and I know for a fact that Rabbi Chaim Brook and his wife Chavi are going to save Jewish people's lives. I have no doubt about that they're going to save Jewish people's lives. I have no doubt about the fact that they're going to bring Jews back to Judaism. I have no doubt that non-Jews are going to have a light onto the nation's effect from this Jewish couple that is going to bring Torah to this remote place in Montana. I have no doubt that these people are doing the emissary work of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and they're amazing, and they have tremendous self-sacrifice, and I am so proud of them. At the same time, and this is something I struggle with, and you can tell me how you feel about this, but I struggle with this. And I say to myself, every time I read an article like this, they say, it's a milestone for Jewish life in Montana. It's a milestone for Jewish life in Munich. It's a milestone for Jewish life in Berlin. It's a milestone for I don't want Jewish life in Berlin. I don't want Jewish life in Montana. I want it to end. It's not because I want it, because this is how I understand what God wants. And every time we make $1 million mikvah in one of these places, it's like it's a kosher seal of approval on Jewish life in Montana. I don't like the word, it's a milestone for Jewish life in Montana, Rabbi Brook. What I want you to say is, we're here to save the Jews that are remaining here, and then we're going to send them on to Eretz Yisrael where they're supposed to be. We're not creating Jewish life in Montana. The fact that God has not brought Jewish life to Montana too much is a blessing. It's a blessing. We don't need to revive Jewish life in these places like Iowa, like Idaho, like Omaha, Nebraska. There is no great pride to live in Omaha, Nebraska as a Jew. And in fact, as I've told you before, I think that what the Rambam says, the Maimonides tells us, is that you're not really allowed to leave Babylon for a minor Jewish community except for going to Israel. Why? Because you're not supposed to go to these minor places. You're not supposed to spread out. If you're with all the other Jews in the New York area, okay, maybe you're like in Babylon. Not that that's good. It's time for you to come home. But all I'm saying is this. The tension here is between saving Jewish lives. Says Samuel on the Virtual Studios, there aren't really a whole lot of people in Montana to begin with. That's exactly right, Sam. And I don't want even one person to think, well, this is a decent place to stay, or at least we have a mikvah now. I mean, on the one hand, again, understand what I'm saying to you. I think that these people are doing holy work. I think they're doing God's work. I think that they're motivated by the right things, and I think they will save lives. I don't think so. I know it. I know how these people operate. I know what they're going to be doing there. They're going to save lives, and they're going to save Jewish lives. And there's going to be many non-Jews that are going to learn about the Torah. And there's going to be people who convert. There's going to be people who learn about Bnei Noach. And the light of Judaism is going to come out to this hole in Montana. This beautiful God's country, by the way. But on the other hand, Jews and non-Jews alike, don't misunderstand, don't make the mistake. Staying in Montana is not a Jewish value. It is against the Jewish value. It's against the Jewish value. As playing devil's advocate on the virtual studio, Sam says, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. One point about spreading out, it's what has kept a remnant alive throughout the millennia. That's right, Samuel. That is right. It has kept the remnant alive throughout the millennias, or millennia, plural, but that's not the time we're living in anymore. That's exactly the point. Yes, that system worked in the time of the Galut, but we're not in the time of Galut. We're in the time of redemption. There's a shift. And if you don't understand that shift, it's like what I talked about in the first half hour. It's the difference between the widow and the girl who's engaged. They both are single at the time, but it's totally different statuses. We're living in a completely different status time. And therefore, we are not to encourage Jewish life in Montana. And encouraging Jewish life in Montana is a way to actually hold back redemption. So, folks, I definitely struggle with this issue. I'd love to hear what you think about this, because I really see both sides of it. Here's another story. This is from the John that I've told you many times, AFP. These guys are big anti-Semites. And here's what they say. They say, around 2,000 French Jews are to emigrate to Israel this year, slightly more than last year, but down from previous peaks. Around 230 of those planning to leave were to be blessed on Thursday by Gilles Bernheim, France's chief rabbi, before taking a flight next week. Woo! That's the way to do it, man. He's blessing them. Live long and prosper, and have a good time in the land of Israel. The head of the Jewish Agency for Israel's Department for Aliyah, Oren Toledano, said 400 young people and 400 retirees are amongst this year's Olim. His organization has helped prepare them for their new lives by giving beginners Hebrew classes and helping them find jobs in schools in Israel. Most who perform Aliyah remain in Israel. France is home to around 500,000 Jews, the biggest such community outside Israel and the United States, and the only one in Europe to have grown since the Holocaust due to arrivals from North Africa. That's not true, of course, because this is a completely incorrect article, because there's also, of course, German Jewry, which has grown tremendously in the last few years. It is also now the biggest source of new immigrants to Israel, according to Toledano, who told the Jewish News Weekly, French Jews are very Zionist. That's a part of their culture, history, and religious practice. Israel is an essential value for the Jewish community in France. The high point of French Jewish immigration came in 1967, when the Six-Day War inspired 5,300 to make the journey. Since then, the figure has largely hovered between 1,000 and 1,500 per year, although twice since the millennium, it has passed 2,800 per year, amid fears of an increase in anti-Semitic attacks. So it's interesting. The largest Aliyah came on the footsteps of the Six-Day War, when it wasn't fear of anti-Semitism, when it was the inspiration of light, when God's revelation came to fruition, so the French wanted to come here. The other thing that pushes people is anti-Semitism. Excuse me. Half the numbers of the French would come on anti-Semitism as came on inspiration. This is what I believe. I'm a much bigger believer in God's light and inspiration than I am in the foot of anti-Semitism. Although at the same time, the Talmud tells us that Haman's ring of power, his ring that represented his political strength, did more than 70 prophets, because the Jewish people were moved to return to God and to move to the land of Israel on the spurring of. They didn't always listen to God's revelation. Well, we are hoping for the big light, ladies and gentlemen. And that big light is going to bring all the Jewish people home. It's time to wake up. If you're in Montana and you've just dipped in the ritual bath and you are now more pure than before, you're more connected to godliness through the work of Chabad or through anybody else's work, that's amazing. Don't get stuck in Montana. Don't get stuck in France. Don't get stuck in South Africa. There are beautiful places like Ariel and other wonderful places. It's calling you home. It's calling you home. All right, folks, stay tuned. More great stuff is on the way on Yeahai and Friends. We got a Torah hour next.